Hey everybody, hope you're having a glorious Monday. We have a special guest with us today to talk about a special topic, a topic special to me at any rate, and that is finding creativity and kind of moving past hardships that may have set you back. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Old Man Boone. Old Man Boone, why don't you give us a little hello here?
Ahoy.
So Boone and I go a little ways back. We graduated from Wright State's film school together, and he is a pretty groovy dude from a retro generation. Would you say that's an accurate accurate title there, Boone?
Well, as you may have noticed, other than the hairline, I am more a millennial than old man. But uh, since high school people referred to me as Old Man Boone, so I just kind of went with it.
And that would be because of all your kind of elderly tendencies, I would say, right? You kind of have some of those habits.
my my mannerisms.
Quite, quite. So, Boone, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you've been up to lately?
Well, I'm an independent filmmaker. I've been mainly focusing on just sort of low budget sort of things. I've been doing a video a week on a YouTube channel just as sort of to keep my skills up.
Wonderful. And can you tell us a little bit about what your latest project is that you've been working on?
Well, other than the video a week, I've been writing two feature scripts.
And can you give us just like a very, very broad overview of kind of what that's about?
Probably the one that it's a little bit of a back burner with the video a week project, but probably the one that I would be most comfortable talking about would be set in a, it's set during two time periods. It's set during the 1940s and it's set during present day. And it involves a farmer who finds a satellite dish crashed into his field in the 1940s, and it's about the ramifications of his family realizing that this isn't a sculpture that has been sitting in the barn, but rather some sort of satellite.
That sounds really cool. So this is the feature length, correct?
It's one of them, yeah.
One of them. All right. So I remember that you've been kind of playing with this idea for a little while now, but you mentioned to me, and just now you actually mentioned that's sort of been a little bit of a back burner to your video a day project, or sorry, that's a lot. Video a week project. Can you elaborate a little bit on like what makes you keep wanting to come back to the project, and do you think that stepping away from it has kind of helped you to be able to get some of those juices flowing?
Just to clarify, there's actually three feature scripts in reference. There was the one that I actually cut ties with, that was the one that, yeah, I think you were originally aware of, was the one that I decided against making. And then there are these two additional projects, that one of which I'm not keen on discussing, but the other one is that one. Would you rather I talk about the one that I let die, or would you rather I keep it on the one that's still I'm still plan on making at some point?
So I think we're going to be hitting on both topics here. Um, but what I'd kind of like to hear, sparking from what you just mentioned, is you're working concurrently on two different projects. How
Hmm.
does that kind of help with your process? Just being able to switch between them as you're getting ideas coming in.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps to be working on multiple things, so that way if you decide that you don't know where you want to proceed with something, or if you're uncertain how the characters would respond in a situation, that allows you a little bit of breathing room to continue working on it. I think one of the big ones there also is that I don't have hard deadlines on these that are like external factors, where these are passion projects. I'm able to just, keep going with them at my own pace and not worry about external deadlines.
Something that I know that I kind of personally would struggle with in that situation is being able to keep the dedication to this project. You mentioned that there's not really like a tight deadline on these. Uh, what keeps you motivated to keep going?
I think the big one is just a not setting hard, and not saying it in a hard way, but I think one of the big problems is that everyone gets fixated on that if they set a daily requirement that they have to have a page a day or a certain amount of this a day. But the big one is just writing something every day, because if you do, if it's a sentence a day, you'll still get way further than if you force yourself to do a page a day or some sort of specific hard line, of which then you'll end up burning yourself out on. But if you set it to where you're gonna do something with it every day, then it'll keep the pressure off and it'll allow you to get further than you would if you were putting more on it.
And I was kind of thinking about this today, uh, kind of brainstorming like the topics that I want to touch on with you and kind of what my own vantage point was. And I absolutely agree. I found that while I am not a writer, I don't consider myself to be a writer. Even in my day-to-day work, where I'm doing corporate videography work, I found that the trick is really just to start. Creativity on demand is something that you're not going to really be able to find. So you kind of have to be able to push through those barriers and get something started just to get that spigot going.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. And I know it's probably, depending on what you're working on, it can be a little frustrating when you do have those external deadlines, because you've got to try to still tap into those creative outlets while also dealing with like additional structure and additional requirements for the project.
So, kind of shifting scope a little bit here and moving over to your dead project. Let's talk a little bit about killing our babies and kind of what that means to you as a creative writer here.
To give you a bit of backstory, I'm not going to actually get into the narrative of the story because I don't think it necessarily matters, and I'm not going to make the project anyway. But uh, so that was, I started writing that script right after college, and I was fixated on like, okay, I'm going to make this feature, we're going to move forward with it, and I spent a year, maybe a year and a half writing this script, and I had put a hard line of like what I had to do each and every day on it, and I kept pushing and pushing, and there were, I think, probably 3 or 4 major revisions to it that like overhauled elements to it, and by the end of it I was so tunnel visioned and burned out on it that I was just like, all right, it's ready to go, we're going to make it. And I had gotten I'd gotten some, I'm not going to use the word negative, but I had gotten some very heavy feedback on a crucial issue in the narrative that was just embedded to the core concept. And so I was looking at that, and I was going to move forward regardless. And then some like roadblocks came up, and I had a moment to take time to look back away from it, and I was just like, holy crap, I'm glad I didn't make this. Because it had, again, that feedback, was started festering in my mind, thinking about it more and more, and I was like, I can't make this script, it's not going to work. And I think probably one of the most relieving things was when I realized that I wouldn't be able to tell it in that particular way, that moving, if I wanted to keep moving forward on projects, to just let it lie. And that was hard to come to terms with at first, as it being a passion project and spending so much time in it. But I think if the project's not right, you can't be afraid to just shelve it, or to let it go.
Do you think there was kind of like a distinct moment there where you were ready to move on from it and willing to kind of embrace the new projects that were coming in?
I don't know if there was like a distinct moment, because it was sort of just like a lot of like little moments that led to that. When I went back and looked at it, and I was just like, oh, well, yeah. Because I think you really can't be afraid to, the sunk cost fallacy. You can't be afraid to, just because you spent a year working on something doesn't mean that year was wasted. It means that you spent a year, you know, working in your craft.
Yeah, so it's really just a year of learning and continuing to push the boundaries. You might get knocked down, you've
Mhm.
taken your licks, but you can get back up and keep moving forward.
And at the end of the day, regardless of if I made it, I still can say that I wrote a feature script. It's just a matter of I didn't decide to go. And from that, like once you've done written your first feature, it's so much less daunting, because I've already written such and such number of pages.
Yeah, so it's kind of just a matter of you finish that first one and now there's no mountain too high, right?
Hmm.
All right, and kind of last closing thoughts here. I guess really, if there was something that you took away from this lesson of needing to kind of cut ties with your work and something that you've been attached to, what do you think your takeaway was from abandoning the project?
The biggest one is if someone gives you negative feedback, and you know that that person has like your best interests in mind, and you don't agree with the feedback, take some time to think about it, because especially if you respect their opinion and just take some time to think about it, because it's not coming from a place of like attacking you or anything. And like looking at feedback from elements of like if you might end up not agreeing with it in the end, but at the very least, definitely pay attention to feedback.
And to kind of put a cherry on that with my own perspective here, I'd say that kind of one of the most important lessons that I learned while attending Wright State and film school in general is you don't need to defend your work. And if you are trying to defend your work, you're probably doing yourself a disservice more than anything. Try to open yourself up to the words that your critics are saying, and you might find that if you sleep on it and kind of make yourself receptive, the changes that they're wanting to make are for the better for your story. So even if you don't want to hear it, try not to explain away the problems of your script, of your film. Just let it come. Let the punches come, roll with them, and make something that's better overall. Uh, and with that, Boone, do you have any kind of closing thoughts, any closing message to us, any aspiring writers out there?
Again, just to reiterate, don't fixate on length. Just if you write something every day, say you wrote only a single word every single day, then by the end of a year you will have written 365 words, and it's just a matter of just you're not gonna get there overnight, but you will eventually get there. And just if it doesn't work, cut those elements out, throw in more, play around with it. If it's not fun, then what are you doing? Just find a way to make it fun again.
I really love what you're saying here, Boone. I think that I do absolutely agree with you. Making it fun is the most important thing. If it feels like a chore every day and you're not enjoying what you're doing, why do it? So just take those small steps. Even a small trickle, the smallest stream, can erode the largest of rocks over time. So I think we're going to end it there. Thank you very much, Boone, for joining in and joining us today. And we will catch you all in the next one. Bye now.